Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another session of The Sanctuary. This is our space for reflection, growth, and connection. I'm your girl and guide, Mariah Myles, licensed therapist, minister, and overall creative, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. As we step into April, we're embracing a theme that is essential for emotional well-being: self-compassion. April is a time for renewal and rebirth. So what better way to celebrate than by treating yourself with some kindness and understanding? Throughout this month, we'll explore the importance of self-compassion, how it allows us to embrace our imperfections and treat ourselves with the same care that we would offer to a dear friend. Today's session will lay the foundation for our discussions this month. And of course, we continue to follow along with the prompts from my journal, Busy Minds, Peaceful Hearts. So sit back, relax. It's time to tune in. Before we jump into our topic today, I want to share a personal experience from this morning that really resonated with me. So let me paint the picture for you. I was out for a walk by the river, as I do. I love going on the weekends. And I spotted something in the water. It was kind of big. At first I thought, river otter? No. This was a full-blown sea lion. It had caught this giant silver fish. I mean, I could see it up from the levee. And it was thrashing about in the water. It was struggling a bit as it swam downstream. He'd go under and then pop up every few feet. And I was slightly mesmerized by this experience, something I just couldn't pull myself away from it. And as I continued to walk in the same direction, something about it felt like it was me and this experience. And there were a few people out, but none of them seemed to be attuned to what was happening in the water. And when I got to where I could go no further, and he would continue on, I had this thought. I realized this sea lion would continue to do what it needed to nourish and feed itself, whether I was there to witness it or not. And it struck me almost as a metaphor for self-compassion, right? Because just like the sea lion, we too need to nourish ourselves and trust that our journey doesn't require an audience. And I stood there for a moment, watching a little bit more before turning back. And as I came out of the gravel, kind of reconnecting with my path, I ran into an older, retired fisherman, and he was also walking in the same direction as I. And for the few moments that we walked side by side, he struck up a conversation as he was looking for a place to kind of dip off the trail so that he could set up and do his fishing, do his thing. And he shared how he'd been reconnecting with nature through fishing for the past 3 years. He had returned to Sacramento for that reason specifically, to fish where he had as a child. And he talked about creating this sense of balance after a high-stress career, and mentioned that we have the power to control our environments. It felt like he was on his own journey of self-discovery. And he really emphasized that taking control of our surroundings can help us find peace and balance. He even quoted Nietzsche about incorporating danger into play and stressed the importance of giving back to the community. It made me think about how we all have our struggles. And just like the sea lion and the fisherman, we have our paths to navigate, where we seek nourishment and balance. I kind of felt like I was a character in The Alchemist, coming across a mentor within the fisherman. It made me think about how I moved here myself about 16 years ago and also found a deep sense of healing for myself. And along my way, I have met countless others who seem to have gravitated to this place or other places for that very same reason. And I wonder, what is it about this land and its rivers? Are they the roots of the ocean, kind of bringing us back to our own essence? And this reflection ties us back into our month's theme of self-compassion, reminding us to nourish ourselves and embrace our journeys. Let's embrace that spirit of kindness toward ourselves as we move towards and forward in today's episode. So let's take a moment to breathe together, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. As we begin April, I want to honor what we've learned in March about mindfulness and emotional regulation. March really focused on being present and aware of our feelings, right? And it's essential to reflect on how that practice has shaped us and how we can continue to move through life with that same energy. This month's guiding quote is, "If there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you." African proverb, which reminds us that our internal dialogue shapes our resilience. And if we can continue to cultivate kindness within ourselves, external challenges become much easier to navigate. And our affirmation for the month, I will say it once on my own and then invite you to say it with me. I treat myself with kindness and compassion. Accepting my flaws is part of my humanity. Now let's say it together to truly embody its power. I treat myself with kindness and compassion. Accepting my flaws is part of my humanity. And take a moment to breathe in these words, allowing them to resonate within you. As we move into April, let's set an intention for this month. What do you want to cultivate in your life as we focus on self-compassion? And feel free to stop the recording if that feels right to you. So you might bring out your journal and write a little something down to hold yourself accountable. What do you want to cultivate in your life as we focus on self-compassion? If you missed our last episode on breaking free from old habits, I encourage you to go back and take a listen. It really sets the stage for understanding how mindfulness and self-compassion work together in our healing journeys. And to help us ground this intention today, let's engage in a brief somatic practice. And this one's called the 4-5-6 self-compassion pause. And this will help us connect with our bodies and embody the spirit of self-compassion. We will breathe for the count of 4, and then we will hold it for 5 seconds, and then release for 6. So let's begin. I invite you to get comfortable. Maybe find a comfortable seat and find a soft gaze or close your eyes. And slowly inhale through your nose for your count of 4. As you breathe in, visualize filling your body with kindness and compassion. Focus on the air entering your lungs and the nourishment it brings. And now we'll hold your breath for that count of 5. And maybe you bring to mind a compassion affirmation. Maybe I deserve kindness. And slowly exhale through your mouth for the count of 6. Visualize releasing any tension as you exhale. Gently place your hand over your heart, feeling the gentle pressure and warmth of your hand. And let's continue with this practice as we find our groove, right? So inhale for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, this time on your own count, inhaling, holding the breath, exhaling. And if you're in the flow, perhaps you continue. And as always, you can pause the recording and just be with your breath for as long as you need. I hope that practice gave you what you needed. Self-compassion. What does that even really mean? Okay, spoiler alert, it's not just about giving yourself a free pass to eat that extra slice of cake. Though, hey, sometimes that's okay too. Self-compassion is all about treating ourselves with kindness, especially when life gets tough. It's that recognizing we're all human and we make mistakes because that's part of the deal. So what are the 3 magical components of self-compassion? Let's break it down. We got self-kindness. So imagine you're giving yourself a big, giant, warm hug instead of that cold shoulder, right? And when you mess up, instead of criticizing yourself, maybe you comfort yourself instead. Think of it as being your own best friend. And that's self-kindness. Number 2, common humanity. This one's super important because it reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles. Everyone faces challenges, and recognizing that can really help ease feelings of isolation because you're in good company. Common humanity. And it's important to remind ourselves that because we often forget. We feel like we're doing it alone. And number 3 of that magical component, mindfulness. Because mindfulness means being aware of your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's like watching the clouds as they pass along in the sky, acknowledging their presence without getting swept away by them, right? Because I got swept away with that sea lion for sure. And here's the good news. Research shows that self-compassion is linked to better emotional resilience. So when we practice self-compassion, we're not just being nice to ourselves. We're actually boosting our mental health. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, isn't compassion just giving myself a free pass? But it isn't. It's really about recognizing your worth, learning from your experiences, and approaching yourself with kindness. This is the fullest form of self-love. I was sitting with a client the other day who was talking about Finding Nemo at some point, which got me thinking how popular films really illustrate this theme of self-compassion. And for those of you who haven't seen it, Finding Nemo is this animated film about a clownfish named Marlin who is incredibly protective of his son, Nemo. And after Nemo is captured by a diver, Marlin embarks on this kind of daring journey across the ocean to rescue him. And along the way, Marlin encounters various sea creatures and learns valuable lessons about courage and love. And you know what? There's something really powerful about this story. It kind of highlights the importance of, yep, you got it, self-compassion. Marlin is so focused on protecting Nemo that he often forgets to show kindness to himself. And as he struggles with anxiety and control, it reflects this internal battle many of us face. He learns that by allowing Nemo to make these mistakes, because it's part of his growth, that he must also learn to be kinder to himself, right? And this film I think it does a pretty good, a decent job with creating a strong moral of a story and teaches us that embracing both the joyful and painful moments in our lives is essential for this self-acceptance. I don't know. That's what I got from it. And because I was really in the zone and enjoying dissecting the characters in this way, I wanted to apply this theory to one of my favorite movies, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And if you haven't seen this, I'm going to try my hardest not to spoil this for you, but I highly encourage you to look it up. And I think it came out about 20 years ago, back in 2003, maybe 2004. Okay, so it doesn't matter. But it stars Jim Carrey and Rose, also known as Kate Winslet, by a bunch of other people, right? But this film really explores the complexities of love and memory. And it invites us to reflect on our own emotional experiences. And so for those who aren't familiar, this story involves a couple and they're kind of navigating this relationship and the challenges that come with it. And without giving too much away, it's about how we handle emotional pain and the importance of embracing our own experiences, the good and the bad. Many of us can relate to this desire to bypass the grieving process, right? And the emotional pain that often accompanies breakups. I'm raising my hand over here. You can't see me because I'm one of those people. Nobody likes that. It doesn't feel good, but it's necessary. Anyways, this film really illustrates that self-compassion involves accepting our entire story, not just the happy parts. And by acknowledging both the joy and the pain, we open ourselves up to true healing. And there's a part of us that wishes we could just erase painful memories, avoid the discomfort of our emotions. But this movie, it so beautifully illustrates that facing our feelings is essential for that genuine healing. It shows us that while the idea of erasing hurtful experiences may seem tempting, it's through embracing those experiences that we truly grow. And I think that that's what we all want. And a little sidebar here, one of the few movies I still own on DVD. Yes. And I don't know how I'm going to watch it, but for some reason I can't let go of it. I got it. And so both of these films remind us that self-compassion isn't just about being kind during easy times. It's about honoring our experiences, even when they're challenging. It involves acknowledging our pain and allowing ourselves the space to grieve, learn, ultimately heal. As we reflect on these characters and their journeys, think about how you can apply the lessons of self-compassion in your own life. What can you learn from Marlon and Joel about accepting your flaws and embracing your story? And of course, you can pause the recording and be with your own thoughts, be with your own feelings, take a note or two, draw a picture, do what you do. And then, I'm here. And as we're here in this space, I'm thinking about the psychological and spiritual aspects of self-compassion. I feel like there's something to understanding these dimensions that can really support us in deepening our practice and enhancing our emotional well-being. Psychologically, self-compassion is tied to how we manage our emotions. And when we treat ourselves with kindness, we're less likely to experience anxiety, depression, isolation. And research really shows that self-compassion fosters that resilience, allowing us to bounce back from these setbacks more efficiently, more effectively. There's one study by Dr. Kristen Neff, who found that individuals who practice self-compassion are better equipped to handle difficult situations instead of spiraling into negative self-talk, right? They kind of just acknowledge their feelings and work through them without judgment. And spiritually, this idea of self-compassion aligns with many teachings that encourage us to embrace our imperfections. It's about cultivating love and understanding for ourselves, which can be foundational in lots of different various spiritual practices. When we practice self-compassion, we're not just being nice to ourselves, we're also recognizing that shared humanity that we talked about, this idea that we all struggle and experience pain. That allows for us to create a sense of connection and belonging, especially sometimes when the world feels so lonely. Embracing that self-compassion can also help us move away from the need for external validation, right? Because we can attune to ourselves and our needs. When we learn to accept ourselves, we become less reliant on others for our self-worth. It's about finding that inner strength and peace. And this process can be so transformative because it allows us to heal from past wounds and really embrace our full selves. And when we embrace our full selves, that's really how we can connect with others in that deep, meaningful way that can feel scary, but can really fill us up. So as we think about the psychological and spiritual dimensions of self-compassion, I want to encourage you to reflect on just how these aspects resonate in your own life. How can embracing self-compassion change the way that you view your own challenges? I think that this is a really good reminder that self-compassion is not just a practice. It's a mindset that can lead to profound healing and growth. And it's also a habit that we have to create to shift that mindset. And sometimes forming habits is not fun because it's new and it might feel uncomfortable. But the more you do it, a new groove in your brain starts to form. And it feels like second nature. Asking yourself reflective questions like those in Busy Minds, Peaceful Hearts journal often feels really supportive because it allows you to get curious about what's been making you move through life as you are. And for those of you who've experienced therapy, this is a lot of what therapy is about, getting curious and reframing some of the narratives we've created, the beliefs that we've created. And sometimes that does take bouncing these thoughts and ideas off of somebody else so that they can support us in reframing that narrative. So let's explore some daily prompts from the first week of April in my journal. And these prompts are designed to help you cultivate that self-compassion and really reflect on your journey. Each day, take a moment to sit with these prompts, whether in your own journal or during a quiet reflection. But today we get to kind of explore a few of them. Within the first week, some of them you might explore, and maybe today you pick one. But what is a kind message I can give to myself today? And I think this prompt really encourages you to tune into your inner dialogue. What do you need to hear right now? It might be as simple as, I'm doing my best. Or maybe I am worthy of love and respect. What do you need to hear right now? And maybe this is one you sit with today, and then maybe tomorrow you sit with, what is one thing I appreciate about myself right now? Because celebrating your strengths is so vital. And by taking a moment to recognize something that you genuinely appreciate about yourself, whether it's a quality or a skill or achievement, is so important. Prompt 4, how do I typically respond to mistakes? Oh, maybe that was prompt 3, my bad. How do I typically respond to mistakes? How can I shift that response? And maybe reflect on your reaction when things don't go as planned. What do you notice? Do you criticize yourself? Do you approach it with understanding? This awareness can help you identify patterns. And once you recognize your typical response, think about how you can nurture a more compassionate approach. What would you tell a friend in a similar situation? And of course, there's a few others for the week. but this is the last one I'm going to share today. In what ways can I nurture my emotional well-being today? And this prompt really encourages you to think about self-care here. So what small actions can you take today to support your emotional health? It might be taking a walk, meditating, sitting in a small little silence, enjoying a favorite hobby. My hope is that these prompts are like gentle little nudges, encouraging you to engage with your feelings and to treat yourself with that kindness. And I think it's also important to go at your own pace. Remember that there's no rush. Just allow yourself that time and that space to explore these questions really deeply. Mindfulness is about being present with your feelings. And as you engage with these prompts, maybe consider sharing your reflections over on social media. You can use the hashtag thesanctuaryvoice, or maybe hashtag April Self-Compassion Challenge. I'd really love to hear your experiences. And sometimes it feels good to reflect with others in that way. Once again, thank you for being here, either on whatever channel you're joining by. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a session here at the Sanctuary. And like I said earlier, I'm still welcoming your experience. I want to hear your sanctuary voice. What does healing look like for you? Or whatever else you want to share, I'm here for it all. And you can connect at the Sanctuary with MoriahMyles at gmail.com. All together, no spaces, y'all. Or head over to IG. That's my_Moriah. And until next time, embrace each breath and remember, our bodies have this innate wisdom, the beautiful ability to heal itself, and we heal best in community. Love and light. Peace, y'all. While this podcast may feel like a therapeutic conversation, it is important to note that it is not a substitute for professional therapy or mental health. The information shared here is intended solely for educational purposes and should not be used as a replacement for personalized mental health care. Although I am a therapist, I'm not acting as your therapist in this setting. If you are in need of support, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional.